What's going on? Welcome into the Sports Forum Super Bowl show. Man, we got a great one lined up here for you today. I'm Anthony. I'm joined by Bryson, and we got Riggs down there. Make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We do have a special cash giveaway. You can check that out on our website, Denver Sports Forum. But, man, we got something a little bit bigger right now. We're going to be talking about this Super Bowl game. I feel like all of us over here, we've been kind of tossing and turning. We've been going back and forth on this game. You know, the interesting line movement that we got to be tracking here. But as it stands right now, we have the Chiefs right now as +2 underdogs right now, looking at the total 47.5. Interesting how this line has moved. You know, we've heard some interesting storylines coming out about some of the practice facilities. The Niners having to play at the UNLV facility, and obviously, you know, the Chiefs getting the nice, shiny Vegas facility over there.
Shocker.
Yeah, absolute shocker right there. No favoritism there at all. But, man, I'm going to start this one off with you, Bryson. Where do you see this game going? Are you leaning on any team right now? I know we were having some conversations in Mobile about this. I felt like we were both kind of going back and forth. You know, I think it's two very evenly matched teams going into it. No debate about that. But where do you see this one going?
Man, this is so tough because so much of me wants to take the San Francisco 49ers in this one because, like, position for position, the Niners have the better players. They have the better wide receivers. The O-line's pretty comparable. I think that it's pretty even there. On defense, even though the Chiefs have played out of their minds this season defensively, I think the Niners, talent-wise, are the better unit on that side of the ball. But it's so hard to bet against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, especially when they're underdogs. Patrick Mahomes, in his career, so far it's a small sample size because it doesn't happen very often. But in the playoffs, he's 3-0 against the spread as an underdog so far. It's, again, small sample size, doesn't happen very often, but it's really hard to see that number and not bet for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I am going to take the 49ers in this game. I think that they are, like I said, the better team. I think that the coaching is a little bit even. Andy Reid has probably the edge in that department just because he's been there and done that so many times. He's won 2 Super Bowls. I think this is Kyle Shanahan's year to get it done, though. I think that Brock Purdy, what I've seen out of him in the playoffs, I know a lot of people have been kind of disappointed with him because he hasn't played 4 quarters of good football in any of the games they've played in. What I've seen is that fourth quarter comes along, as it's a close game. Brock Purdy's going to get it done. They have I think Patrick Mahomes is the best player in this game. They have maybe the second best player the Niners do with Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey is probably the second best player in this game. And then I think everything's working really well for them. This is the healthiest the Niners have been ever at this point in the season. So it's tough. It's really tough to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs as underdogs. But I think the Niners are just that good of a football team. What do you think, Riggs?
First of all, I think Christian McCaffrey is the best player in the game. If you guys couldn't catch that by my reaction. Now, I get it. A lot of you are going to give me some flack for that. You know, you guys all want to kindly suck off Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not going to do that here today. McCaffrey would be my guy. I think he's the most dominant player on the field in this game overall. But hey, you know, like you said, it could go 1-2 between him and Patrick Mahomes. But I think it's tough because I think you nailed it, Bryson, on the coaching. I think Andy Reid does get the edge here. He's been around in the game longer. He's been in the Super Bowl, obviously, more times, especially as of recent. I just think overall they have the advantage. He's 31-7. Andy Reid is straight up off a bye. Basically, you give that man 2 weeks to prepare, and he's going to come in with that heat. The thing is, I think he's running into a coach in Shanahan that also is going to come in very confident and feeling very prepared for this team. One thing about this game that we saw in the last game against the Ravens was that defense for Kansas City. We all talked about it, how good they looked. You know, shout out to Spags. His defense was absolutely rolling. They were blitzing like 50% of the time. I would be surprised if they chose to differ from that in this game. If it worked so well against Lamar and the Ravens, why wouldn't you use it here? If they do that, I think Brock Purdy is going to be very comfortable with the quick dishes out. I think George Kittle is going to be a very, very big piece of this football game. That's kind of like his security blanket when the blitz comes quickly. So if the Chiefs can figure out a way to rush Purdy, if you're going to blitz 50% of the time, then you're basically leaving Kittle in one-on-one coverage with a linebacker at all times. So I think that's very risky to do. Overall, man, I agree with you. It's damn near impossible to leave Kansas City at +105 here on the money line. off the board. But I'm looking at the money in this game. 29% of the bets, 31% of the money is on San Francisco. 71% of the bets, 69% of the money is on Kansas City, and the sharp money thus far is coming in on San Francisco. And I'm giving you guys the numbers today. By the way, as you guys know, this is Tuesday morning, Monday night, depending on where you're living. So I want to give it to you guys in advance, because as the game gets closer, more and more and more public money is going to roll in. They say like 80% of the money on this game comes in the final 12 hours before the game. So I'm going to just tell you that now, because I think 5 days from now, it don't matter where the money is. So right now, I'm going to go with San Francisco. I'm going to fade Kansas City here. I think Brock Purdy, I saw Mahomes earlier today. He came out and said on the podium, can I hear you, San Francisco? Or some cocky shit like that. And I hope Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant himself, smacks Mahomes right in the face, and the Chiefs go home packing, and Taylor Swift's on her plane home, and they're all crying after the game. I can't wait to see it. Give me Brock Purdy to get a ring and win the Super Bowl. Anthony, are you with us, or are you going to break the trend here?
Man, y'all are going to make this sound like a broken record. I thought one of you guys were going to go for the Chiefs. Like, I feel like in one of our conversations previously, one of you were going for the Chiefs. But, man, I got to get the edge to the Niners here. I think the reason these two teams are where they're at right now is not because they were by far, these powerhouses throughout the year. Yes, in periods the 49ers were, but we never got that sense from the Chiefs. The reason these two teams are in the Super Bowl is because they were able to adapt. They were able to make in-game adjustments in between, from game to game. Yes, they had an identity, but they were willing to mold that identity based on their opponent in a way that had them winning games, even if it wasn't the prettiest at times. I got to give the edge in that regard to the 49ers and Shanahan, because last week they got punched as hard as you could get punched to open up a game. I mean, that game felt over. The energy was dead in the stadium. For them to come back and play that second half the way they were able to, in my opinion, that was the best second half we've seen from any team this year. I mean, there was no stopping. The defense was creating turnovers, making stops, and the offense was able to create these consistent, sustained drives down the field where Purdy looked fantastic. McCaffrey was doing his thing on the ground, making defenders look silly out there. That level of resiliency, I just haven't seen from the Chiefs this year. I feel like if it comes down to a situation where one of these teams gets off a really quick start, if it is the Chiefs, I do feel like the Niners have shown they have the ability to come back in this game. On the flip side, I haven't seen that from the Chiefs. Like, yes, they played well last week, but what did they show us that we didn't already know? We know that they have a good defense and they're going to be able to compete at the highest level. But offensively, they didn't really surprise me last week. I thought they did their bare minimum in order to win that game. Shout out to them. It did get the job done. And at the end of the day,
the second half either.
No, didn't score at all in the second half. Like, I don't know how long we're going to have to see this, kind of mediocre, mediocre Chiefs offense against good defenses. Like, at some point it's going to catch up to them. And I just feel like today is going to be the day that it's going to catch up to them for Sunday in the Super Bowl. I got to agree with you guys. It sounds like we're all on the board with the Niners here. But, man, I think looking at this over-under, I think they might have
one second. I got to throw one more thing out here. No, you're good. I got to throw one more thing out here. So I do want to say, man, first of all, I know you guys on YouTube, because you guys, some of you like to hide behind your computer and your name is like Rubber Duck 123. I know you guys want to sit here and give us shit for not taking the Kansas City Chiefs. Please comment below, drop your take. We'd love to talk to you guys. We think it's going to be a phenomenal game. Let us make that very, very clear. No one's going to sit here and say Mahomes is just going to get, shit on in the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. However, if you guys want to go ahead and take Kansas City, please comment below. Let us know. If you're with us, comment below. Always explain your case, and we'd love to talk with you guys in the comments. Also, Anthony, one thing you mentioned about the Chiefs going up against good defenses, the 49ers defense, and this actually matters, heading into talking about the over-under in this game, is they've given up 770 total yards in the last two preseason games. That is a problem. They've been elite all year, but at the wrong time, they're going the wrong way. So, Bryson, let me ask you, man, as we saw that number there, 47.5 on that over-under. What do you do here, man? You got two offenses that can score, but you also have two defenses that when they're playing their game, they are clearly both top five.
Yeah, this one's really tough because, you look at the talent on these sides of the balls, the way both teams have played all season. it's really hard to be confident betting in the over in a Kansas City Chiefs game right now, which is wild to say. You would have last handful of seasons with Patrick Mahomes, you would have bet the over if at this number almost every time. But they aren't hitting that over. They've barely reached over 20 points in most of their games this season. Last week against the Baltimore Ravens team, they only scratched 17 points. But I'm going to take the over in this game. The Niners defense, like you mentioned, Riggs, it has been a little bit underwhelming so far in the playoffs, especially their pass rush. They have not been getting the quarterbacks. And the one way you can stop this Kansas City offense pretty consistently and Patrick Mahomes is by getting to him without having to blitz. You don't want to bring that fifth guy with Patrick Mahomes because he's going to pick them apart every time. And this pass rush, even though it has Chase Young and Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead, they've been underwhelming. They haven't really been getting the quarterbacks consistently. So if they can't get to Mahomes enough, Mahomes is going to have all day in the pocket there. You've seen Travis Kelce have a bit of a resurgence the last two games. He's played very well for the Chiefs offensively. He's been kind of their best piece offensively so far in this playoffs. I still like Rashee Rice. And on the Niners side of the ball, there's a million guys that can score a touchdown in this game for the San Francisco 49ers. Like, there's offense all over the field for them. Brock Purdy, I think last week, the second half that Anthony mentioned, I think that was like Brock Purdy's like awakening in the playoffs. Like, that was his signature playoff moment, getting that win against the Lions, having that much success in the second half. So I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than most people think. I'm having it somewhere in the 27 to 23 type of range. So hitting the over, but I see about 50-ish points being scored in this game.
Bryson, I'm right there with you, man. I got to respond to you, Riggs, because I know you mentioned, and I'm going to fully admit it. I'm not disagreeing with you in the fact that they've given up, this Niners defense has given up a ton of yards in this postseason. But I mentioned that fantastic second half. It wasn't just on the offensive side of the ball. It was also on the defensive side of the ball. And despite some of the yardage that they have given up and maybe the high point total in that last game, they've also been getting takeaways. And I feel like against this Chiefs team, if you get Mahomes in a situation where you are able to create some pressure, like Bryson is saying, in some of these four-man rush situations, because you do have some of the best pass defenders in the game there on the line, I think you're going to bait Mahomes into some throws he might not be willing to make. And at the rate that they're getting turnovers at, I really think that it's going to lead to a Mahomes interception here or there that's going to really impact the momentum and the trajectory of this game. But, I'm not blind. I'm not willing to say that they've looked fantastic. They have been letting up points. And for that reason, I'm with Bryson here. I'm going to be taking the over, and I see it right around the 50-point mark too. I think it's going to go slightly over, but I will be cautioned here because I do think if it goes too far over, I think if we see a repeat of last year's Super Bowl and it gets more into the shootout situation, I don't see that favoring the Niners. I mean, if you get to that 35, 36-point realm, I feel like that's going to be Patrick Mahomes' comfort level. If it gets into a late-game shootout, Mahomes is always going to be the guy who has the ball late and he's going to deliver for that team. So I see it hitting the over, but just barely right there, sitting around that 50 mark. Riggs, where do you see this one?
Oh, dude, you guys are making some damn good points here, and I am so stuck on this total. I mean, hey, shout out to the odds maker. You get a raise this time, man. They finally got a total correct in the NFL. It only took to the last game of the freaking year to get a number right. But man, I'm stuck because pretty much everything you guys are saying, like both defenses have the ability to make this literally like a 20-17 football game, and it's never even close to going over. And I think that's more realistic based on what we saw for the entire year until the last 2 weeks, because Kansas City, even with the resurgence of Travis Kelce, they still only put up 17 points. And I'm not a believer that Travis Kelce, I shouldn't say I'm not a believer because I'm going to get punched in the mouth here. I don't know if he's going to do it again at the level he's doing it at, because you have 2 weeks to prepare for Kelce. If you take that away, you're going to frustrate Mahomes. If it comes down to we're going to make Mahomes throw the football and we're going to make him throw it to the 3 wide receivers that he does not trust, that's how I think you have to beat them. Or you can let Pacheco, get 2-3 yards a carry, do his thing. You'll get plenty of 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s. You stop them. You force a lot of punts. And I think you win the game. I think the only way that they lose the game is if Travis Kelce goes off. And if Travis Kelce goes off, I think it goes towards the over. And like you're saying, I think if it goes towards the over, it absolutely favors Kansas City in this football game. So Look, man, where the money's coming in does not help you at all when you're trying to make your decision. 57% of the bets, 35% of the money is on the over, which usually would indicate the public. But in this case scenario, it's actually the sharps that are coming in on the over. And on the under, you got 43% of the bets and 65% of the money, which is on a big better. So those guys that come in and drop $100,000, they're taking the under in this game. So it's a tough one to call, man. I'm not convinced. I'm going to switch it up a little bit so that we can't get completely bashed when someone's wrong here. I'm going to go with the under 47.5 here just because I think something in the realm of 24-21, 24-20, that feels more right to me in this game. And since I'm on San Francisco, I really hope that Kansas City don't break 23 points in this game in order for them to win. So I'll stay on the under here. I think it's going to be really close. And Bryson, I think you said like 27-23. That's my fear. That's my fear number because that's where I could see it going. So it's a tough one, man, no matter how you cut the cake, guys. But good luck to you, whichever way you go. Now, I'm going to say one thing here before we get into our prop bets because some people aren't going to like this, but I mean this with all of my heart. Bryson, Anthony, you too, man. I'm going to call both you motherfuckers out right now. So you guys said in the Packer game that you were off Brock Purdy and he didn't look good and blah, blah, blah. And you were right. He didn't look good. But I said that game-winning drive was all I needed to see of him to know he was back. Then he went and he does it again the following week. And right now, I just think that he is okay. I would take Brock Purdy on a game-winning drive right now before Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh.
In this game.
I don't know about that.
I trust him. He's 2 for 2, Bryson. He's 2 for 2 on game-winning drives. Mahomes hasn't scored a point in the fourth quarter. You know, lately, I'm good, man. I'm good. Give me Brock Purdy on a game-winning drive. If someone's going to have the ball at the end and I need them to win, of course, you would prefer in this case to have the defense on either side. But if the ball is in Brock Purdy's hands right now, I genuinely believe if he has more than 2 minutes, I think they win that football game. I guess if they only have 28 seconds, then I want Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But outside of that, I genuinely believe that Brock Purdy is more trustworthy here. But I know you got something to say about this. So, Bryson, what you got?
Well, I get what you're saying with it being like this season, because obviously Patrick Mahomes hasn't needed to do the game-winning drive so far this postseason, while Brock Purdy has had to dig himself out of those holes he and that offense has put this team in, both of the first 2 games of this postseason for them. Let's not forget, the reason that they had to do those game-winning drives, as impressive as they both were, is because Brock Purdy was so bad in the first half of those games. I don't think he can afford to be that in the first half of this game. If he's that bad in the first half against this Chiefs game, the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. You're not going to come back against this Chiefs team that way.
That's fair.
It's the Super Bowl. We've seen Patrick Mahomes do this. He does it. He's done it twice. He has two Super Bowls already under his belt at the age of 28 in 6 seasons as a starter. This is going to be the biggest stage Brock Purdy has ever played in. The lights are going to be the brightest. Kyle Shanahan, kind of known for choking in the Super Bowl, as much as I am on the Niners this week. If you're giving me a game-winning drive and I need a quarterback and coach to get it done, I don't think there's a combination in the entire NFL, and they're coming up close on NFL history, that I would take over Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like those guys, it's terrifying to bet against those guys on a game-winning drive. So I get what you're saying. Obviously, we've seen it from Brock Purdy this year, so it's easy to say that you'd rather have him in this scenario. But Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, by far the best quarterback in the NFL, and I'm not taking anyone over him if I need a game-winning drive. And
just so we're clear, if I need a field goal, I want Kansas City because they can hit Kelce across the middle twice, and Harrison Butker can bang a 60. If I need a full, complete drive, then personally, I want the 49ers. I know it doesn't make much sense. Anthony, do you have anything to add to this, man, since you're shaking your head? Anything before we give our touchdown scores?
Saying that you would take Purdy with less than 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl over Mahomes is like saying that you would take Mahomes over Brady in the GOAT talks as of today. That's that statement is to me. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're taking a look at the past 2 games. Let's not act like out of nowhere Brock Purdy's gifted the ball with 2 minutes left and he's just been the hero of these games. The result of him being able to have those last-minute drives is because of a change in momentum that led up to that, not because of him, primarily because of the defense and other plays that guys on the offense makes. Like in that Detroit game, they were gifted an opportunity late in the game due to some key mistakes by Detroit and from the defense itself that just let them, be in that situation. And it's the result of this time, this momentum changing where he's gifted the ball late. It's not just solely him. I look at Mahomes. How many situations has he proven it in some of the most difficult games, most difficult situations against the best defenders, the best players in the NFL, consistently come out on the other side? Like, you can't tell me that level of experience, this level of games where he has showed greatness, like heroic greatness that will be talked about for years and years to come, is better than 2 games I've seen from Brock Purdy. That is crazy. Talk about recency bias right there.
Whoa. All right. That's how it's going to be. That's fine. First of all, Tom Brady is the GOAT. Patrick Mahomes ain't nothing compared to Tom freaking Brady. So I'm over that conversation. But look, man, we're going to find out. Yep. And you better not, Anthony, show up to work on Monday morning after Brock Purdy goes 78 yards and bangs it in for the game winner. Brandon Ayuk, corner of the end zone. I don't want to hear about it. I just so you know, I don't want to hear about it. So,
even if that was the case, I'm still taking Mahomes. Like, how do you not? This dude has proven it. He has 2 Super Bowls under his belt, and he's won in the best games, the biggest situations ever. Like, you can't tell me even after 1 Super Bowl win, you would need to do that for another season for me to even put them in the same conversation.
Look, the reason for me, one, is because Brock Purdy has done it 2 weeks in a row. And you can say, oh, well, this led up to that and they got a momentum change. And that's football, dog. You usually have to get a momentum change before you go on a game-winning drive. You got to stop somebody on 4th down. You got to force a punt. You got to get a turnover. You got to do something. And so, yes, was there a momentum change? Yes, there was. But when his freaking ass was against the wall and it was drive down here, make it happen, or you go home, he's got it done 2 weeks in a row. And Mahomes just hasn't had to do it. It's not necessarily that I'm fading Mahomes. It's just that I think I trust Brock Purdy more on the game-winning drive right now than I trust him in the first 3 quarters. That's all I'm saying. Right now, I trust him to play good football when he has to play good football. And I agree with both of you. If they get out to a slow start, they're in big, big trouble here. But I'm just saying, if it comes down to a game-winning drive, 2-3 minutes left, I'm very confident that Brock Purdy can go down even against this defense and go ahead and get a score there. So it's going to be close, man. But hey, let's jump on in here and talk about our favorite props of the game. A lot to talk about here. So when you look at touchdown scores, man, on the board, first of all, I'm kind of over these books giving us such bad odds on touchdown scores for the Super Bowl, but I understand it because they got to make their bread too. Christian McCaffrey, -210 anytime as the favorite. Isaiah Pacheco, -120. Kelsey is at -110 odds. Then you got Debo, Rice, Kittle, Ayuk, Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, both defenses, and the list goes on from there. Bryson, your favorite touchdown scorer if you only got one guy in this game, who is it?
Well, obviously it would be Christian McCaffrey, but I'm not taking him at those odds. So I'm going to look at someone else. It's going to be a San Francisco 49er. And it's really tough because like I mentioned earlier, there are so many guys on this field you can see scoring a touchdown. I'm going to take George Kittle in this one. Kansas City, to their credit, they may have the best cornerback duo in the entire NFL right now. The way that Snead and the kid out of, I believe, Washington, blanking on his name right now, the way those two are playing, unbelievable football. They're shutting down every receiver they see right now. And so I see Debo and Brandon Ayuk having a struggle of a game. You can beat this team, and we've seen it a little bit so far in this postseason at times. You can beat them with your tight ends against these safeties and linebackers. They are not the most deep or talented in those areas. And so I think if you're going to put so much emphasis on Debo and Ayuk in this game, I would see Kittle having a big one here. He's also going to be super motivated. He's got that quote famous for a couple years ago when they lost the Super Bowl. He's going to come back with a vengeance. I see that happening in this game for George Kittle. I think he's going to have a big game. But if you want a sleeper, if you want a long shot one, Kyle Juszczyk +900. I'll take it.
Kyle Juszczyk +900. Shout out to his girl. Yeah, man.
Yes,
I like that. I think you got some cojones there. By the way, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, we're gonna squad ride that one, guys. So we're just gonna go ahead and highlight that because we probably all think it's a good pick. But Anthony, looking at your favorite touchdown scorer here, man, who is your selection?
Man, I'm hearing everything Bryson's saying. It is a fantastic secondary over there in for the Chiefs, but I am going to give it to Ayuk in this one. I just feel like it's a difficult situation for me to see Purdy not being able to connect with the receiver in this game and for them to put up enough points in order to beat the Chiefs. I really like the connection I'm seeing right there. I also love George Kittle because, I think we're all on the tight ends against the Chiefs right here. I think that's my favorite receiver in this one. But I am going to throw a little bit of the dog out there. I really like Edwards-Helaire in this one. I mean, these past couple of games throughout the playoffs, he has been running look, dude, he's been running over defenses single-handedly. At those odds, I'm not going to put a big bet on it. I might put it as part of a parlay. I'm going to sprinkle it a little bit, but I do think it's worth a look right there because he's been getting more looks in the playoffs and he's been looking better with those looks.
Mm-hmm. That's fair, man. Well, I guess since we're all going to throw out some long shots, I'll throw out my long shot first. And I'm going to go with this guy right here. And unfortunately, his name is Patrick Mahomes. And I just dogged him on the game-winning drive. But I'm not going to fade him when it comes to making a big play when his team needs him most because he does do that. I do think that they will lock down the receivers in this game. I do think they will, send Pacheco on some kind of BS route or something, fake handoff on the outside. And I do see them getting too caught up in coverage, too caught up in filling the hole. And Mahomes does what he does, kind of sneaks out into the flat there and just kind of walks one in, holds the ball over, and that's it, gets in for a touchdown. So I think it damn near plus 400. I like these odds here for Patrick Mahomes anytime. I will say all of these guys, I've already found them on other books at better odds. So make sure you guys do your research and find the best odds possible. I got to talk about your pick here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think you're right. He's been running pretty well as of late. I've just never been high on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I could see him getting like 4 carries in this game or something like that. So for me, I don't really like him, but I think you're right here with the whole world taking Isaiah Pacheco anytime. I think he's the perfect guy to steal one when everyone's sitting there in front of their TV with all their rent on Isaiah Pacheco to score, and they're going to call freaking Clyde Edwards-Helaire in on the 1 yard line, and they're just going to hand it to him right up the middle. So I could see it. I just personally, I'm not going to bet it. But like I mentioned earlier, I think the number one target in this game is George Kittle. So now that all the good picks are off the board, do I go with Travis Kelce, guys? Do I kind of have to?
I think so. I think it's a good bet.
Is it a good bet, or is everyone and their mother going to be on him in this game?
They will be. I mean, that heading into the bet. It's not like they're not going to be.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you think the Chiefs are going to keep this close at all in this game with the way this Niners defense can play, Kelce's going to have a big game. Mahomes can't rely on Rashee Rice.
He's going to go out there and have 3 touchdowns by himself. I agree with that, Bryson.
That's my other thought, though, because I do kind of like Rashee Rice just because you look at the odds. I mean, minus 110, plus 130, the number 1 wide receiver for them, Rashee Rice, and all those people were outside his house with all his signs. I think he's feeling himself coming into this game, feeling the love. I could see him scoring, but just to do it, guys, let's go with Travis Kelce, as I do believe this is a tight end type of football game. So here's our touchdown scores. God bless America. Sorry we gave you so many. Christian McCaffrey, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if you're really feeling ballsy, you can fire one away there on Kyle Juszczyk, guys. But once again, pick your favorite 2 of all those touchdown scores and just ride those to the bank. We don't ever recommend taking more than 2 or 3 in one game. It's just not usually the smartest thing to do. But it's also the last game of the year, and if you're going to lose your ass, you might as well lose in this one. So live a little, have some fun. Bryson, is there any other players, any other props, anybody that you're looking at in this game, even if it's like like interception prop or anything else like that for you?
Yeah, I actually have a handful of props I really like in this one. I'll try and go pretty quick on them. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, over 19.5 receiving yards. He's kind of been Mahomes' go-to big play threat down the field. He's had already back-to-back games of big catches of over 20-plus yards. It only needs 1 catch for Marquez Valdes-Scantling to get that over. So I like the over 19.5. I also like underrated receiver for the 49ers, who I think could have a big game because of the other two corners that Kansas City has. Juwan Jennings over 1.5 catches at plus money, I think is a steal. He's one of Purdy's favorite big play targets, third down. He's got some of the best hands in the NFL. He makes every third down catch I see go his way. So I think he's going to get a handful of targets. I really like underrated one. Not a lot of people are going to think of this one. Elijah Mitchell over 3.5 rushing yards. He is the backup to Christian McCaffrey, and he's kind of a speed back for them. He's a little bit different than Christian in that he gets it, he sees a hole, hits it. He doesn't do a lot of dancing around, doesn't do a lot of juking. He only needs, I think it's going to take 2 carries. Christian's not going to play the whole game. 3.5 yards, that's all it is.
I feel like he's going to get that on his first carry.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's a crazy number. It's at minus 125. Throw it in a parlay or something you like for that game. I think it's an easy play there. I like Deebo Samuel over 79.5 rushing and receiving yards. The rushing part's the key. I think he's going to have to get about 20 of those on the ground. And then I think the only other one I like, George Karlaftis, over 0.5 sack. It's at plus money. He's been a terror all postseason. The Niners' interior on their offensive line is kind of weak. If you can speed up Brock Purdy, you're going to get to him because he's not the most athletic guy. So I like George Karlaftis there.
So I like all of those, but other than I will say the Deebo one, I think it's really ballsy unless he hits like a 20-yard jet sweep or something like that. I think it's tough for him. But they very well could use that jet sweep a lot, trying to open up that defense a little bit. So that wouldn't be surprising. But let me ask you, if you could only pick one of those, if someone's like, Bryson, I got my $10 free bet, what do I do with it? What's the prop they go with?
Well, I think the Elijah Mitchell one, over 3.5 rushing yards, seems like the biggest guarantee. But with the value on the bet, I like the Juwan Jennings one at plus 110 for only needing 2 catches. I think that's the one I would recommend the most.
Okay. Juwan Jennings, by the way, you guys want one more long shot touchdown score, first touchdown score, 40-1. Juwan Jennings ain't a bad pick. But Anthony, any props for you here, man?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I love Patrick Mahomes to throw an interception this game. I think the 4-man rush scheme from the Niners do get home, and I think it's going to force him, especially late in the game, into some uncomfortable situations. This Niners defense been having takeaways like crazy, especially in the second half of last week. I think it's going to be the thing that really ultimately propels them to the win. Give me Mahomes. Give me an interception coming from him. Riggs, what are you looking at?
Hang on. Bryson's shaking his head. Bryson, I'm going to let you have the floor here, man. What's going on?
It's so hard to see Patrick Mahomes throwing an interception in this game because I get what you're saying. The 4-man rush, I mentioned earlier, the way you beat Patrick Mahomes is you get to him without blitzing. And so if you can keep 7 guys in the secondary while getting to him, obviously it's going to be key for him. He has, in 17 career playoff games, 7 interceptions. He hasn't thrown an interception in 4 weeks, hasn't thrown one in the postseason yet. And that was against the Baltimore defense that led the NFL in takeaways and the Bills defense, who's played a lot better than the Niners defense has lately. So I don't see it happening. I would love to. I would love to see Patrick Mahomes throw an interception, but man, he is on in the biggest stage, and I just don't see him throwing one this week.
I mean, even with the kind of shoddy receiver play, like how many interceptions have we seen from a tip pass that probably should have been a completion that you're never going to really fault to Mahomes, but it ultimately, at the end of the day, still counts as an interception. Totally see what you see, Bryson, and he is, ultimately, he's one of the best playoff quarterbacks of the past 3 years. But I just feel like with some of the receiver play, some of these miscues we've seen from these guys, and with the secondary of the Niners prove that they can, in situations, especially key situations, get takeaways, I feel like it's at least worth a shot to look at in this one.
When he's going to throw that pick, it's going to be on that game-winning drive when he falls short because he should have been named Brock Purdy. That's when that pick's coming. But look, guys, I'm going to throw you guys two novelty props in this game that I think are fun, and they're totally, I'm not betting this off of information at all. They're fun bets that I feel are correct here. First of all, we're going with heads on the coin toss. If you guys don't ride heads on the coin toss, you're stupid. All right. Tails always fails. You guys know how it goes. So heads on the coin toss, put that in. I'm going to be riding that. So hopefully we all start off with a win before the game even starts. And then one that I'm looking at that I know DraftKings has and most books have is the first touchdown scorer. Their jersey number, is it going to be over 22.5 or under 22.5. I'm going with the over 22.5 at the -110 odds here. I think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. I could see it being Kelsey. I could see it being Kittle. I could see it being, there's so many guys out there that are higher than that. Pacheco, you lose. If Mahomes runs it in, you lose. But overall, I like the over in this spot. So I think at -110, there's some decent value there. And then my favorite, or I guess just say one other prop that I really like here, because I'm not going to end the year by not giving you guys a kicking prop. It's just not going to happen. So I'm looking at Harrison Butker, kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, over 1.5 field goals here at -105 odds. Really like this. I think if it's a lower scoring game, they're going to take the points. Mahomes is going to want to go for it. This is one of those games where Andy Reid is probably going to play the Uno trump card, and he's going to say, no, we're kicking it. Get your butt off the field. We're not going to just go for it all day on 4th down. We're going to beat these guys slowly. So I think that he's going to go over the 1.5 field goals there. And then my favorite bet of the game. I got one more game to get it done. I'm getting it done here. 28-1 odds. Anthony's already shaking his head. It's cashing in this one. Both teams to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half at plus 28-1 odds. Guys, it lines up really well here. I think if both teams don't score a touchdown and a field goal in each half, they're probably going to lose. So I really like it here. Both teams, we all said something like 23-27, 24-21. We're all saying they're going to break 20. You only need 20 from each team here to hit this prop. So I'm going to try it at 28-1. That's my fun. Do you guys have anything else you want to throw out here as we enter the final game of the year?
No, I think it's the two most deserving teams to be in this situation, regardless of the outcome of this game. I'm just hoping we get a classic, because I think with the way that both teams are lining up going into this one, I think we could have an absolute classic on our hands. One of those Super Bowls that we talk about for years to come. I'm just hoping for a great game out there on Sunday.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are the two best teams in the NFL. I thought it was going to be the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were the most consistent team in the AFC, and the Chiefs proved us all wrong. I thought the Chiefs deserved to be here. The Niners, they were pretty clearly the best NFC team all season. So like Anthony said, two of the best teams out there. And just because we didn't throw it out there, guys, there's a million other props you can bet on this game. Some of the most hilarious bets I've ever seen. So look at some of them. There's going to be some great props throughout the week that you can bet on.
Guys, we're going to throw a ton of props up on our social media, specifically on our Twitter. So make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at Denver Forum. Ton of props before the game. Like I said, it could be anywhere from the national anthem to the coin toss to we're going to sit down, all of us, and put like 10 of these fun props together. And we're going to have some for you guys. So make sure you check out our page and get those there. I'm going to have an article up for you guys, sportsforumdenver.com. Make sure you check that out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, once again, at The Sports Forum, doing a cash giveaway there. And also on our Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, going to have a giveaway for the Super Bowl as well, something involving guessing the correct score, maybe who the first touchdown score is, something like that. So we'll have some fun there. Make sure you follow us, guys. Enjoy the final game. Be safe. Take a damn Uber. Do not drive your car and drink, and do not bet anything that you can't afford to lose. Enjoy the final game of the year. Shout out Brock Purdy. We'll see you guys.